Mr. Modi bowed before the constitution at the first meeting of the NDA members of parliament. I think we had that image somewhere. Tableen, go ahead.
Yeah, but he did it last time as well and the time before.
Correct.
That he does that as a thing. I actually have not met anyone on my travels who mentioned the Constitution or any threat to the Constitution. I think what people were really sick of was the arrogance with which they were being treated. This 400 par and Modi, aayega to Modi hi, etc. In my view, that is what really worked against them. And the Hindutva card, as Sabha has pointed out, just didn't take off at all. But really, it was ahankar. I heard that word so often, and I'm sure you did too on your travels. People don't like leaders who take them for granted. They threw out Indira Gandhi and her son for exactly this kind of thing. So I think that the BJP was beginning to be complacent, taking the voters for granted, and that's what worked against them. I don't think that the Constitution was an issue. And to tell you the truth, I think they're making a mockery of the Constitution by waving it around, at the drop of a hat. Yesterday, what was the need for that? There are very serious issues to be discussed inside Parliament. Why are you, collecting under the statues of Gandhi, etc., and waving the Constitution? I think that was a really silly gimmick. It was, it was really, forget juvenile, that's the wrong word. It was childish. And also, I think that there will be more understanding amongst the opposition and the government if the opposition stops behaving as though they have won. Rahul Gandhi is behaving as though he's already Prime Minister. Narendra Modi with complete contempt. Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of India. You can't say Narendra Modi ki baat pe koi vishwas nahi kar. Let's have some dignity in the conversation. I don't see.
You said it's a mockery to wave the Constitution around. Yes. Why is it okay for Mr. Modi to bow down before the Constitution, but not for Rahul Gandhi to carry it to Parliament?
He's bowing down because he's gone into Parliament, and as Prime Minister, he's always done it. He's did it 2 or 3 times before. Every time he's won an election, as far as I know, he's said, "I respect." He even bowed down on the steps of the Lok Sabha the first time he entered it.
Yes,
and he said this is the temple of democracy. So it's one thing to say I bow before the Constitution. That is what will guide me through my tenure. And it's quite another thing to wave it around, as if it was some sort of, a comic book.
So 2 very different perspectives on the Constitution as a protagonist in our politics. Percival and then Manisha Priya. Percival?
Yeah, very much mistaken. He also said, when alluding to the emergency, he also said that we have to ensure that no other government can ever declare emergency just as it was done in 1975.
What does that tell us?
What's today's debate all about? What's the difference between what we underwent during the emergency and what is alleged to have been to be going on just now?
Okay, fair. Let's bring in Manisha Priya. Manisha, go ahead.
Exactly want me to respond to?
Whatever you want to pick up, go ahead. Whatever you want to pick up, go ahead.
Okay, so a couple of things very quickly. Rajat made a very strong point about there being no causality. Let me correct the air here that in voting, there cannot be a causality about what exactly was the voter motivation. There is something called multi-causality. Voters vote for many reasons. And if this no causality can be established here, there is no causality that also says that if you give them so many kgs of grain in a bag and call them Labharthi, they'll come and vote for you. Even that was political propaganda of a kind. Voters understand that this is political propaganda. The whole bunk about women's vote going just one particular way because the grain will be mixed with some religion, etc. Women have voted on political issues, on issues of livelihood, on issues of what I call our futures, thinking about what their young ones will do. So in the arena of political deliberation, when political sovereignty moves home, remember, India's poorest debate many issues. I am in Srinagar, I am in the state of the Valley of Kashmir, and I am talking to people about why they voted the way they have. Remember, they've not just not voted, the BJP never fought the elections here. They've also not voted in favor of two of their former chief ministers. So there's been a lot of political deliberation. I'm not putting the issues out there because I also fear, and the fact that I speak guarded, it tells you that civil liberties, the right of citizens to speak their minds freely without accusations to any, needs to be restored at the heart of the debate. At the moment, let both sides listen to us as we speak out as citizens. We do want to still put forward citizens' issues, number one. Second, on the issue of the emergency, I would still be very, very cautious and say that many events have had similarities. Emergency is a particular type of event that happened in India. The broader rubric is authoritarianism. I have much evidence, much publications to say that we have become willing ethnic nationalists. There is a different modus operandi at work. Large parts of the ultra rich who are vote banks of one particular party do not want to believe that we are losing our civil liberties. But if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, they believe they are losing it. So we are a different India in 2024, much richer for the top, definitely not that situation at the bottom. Two Indias are speaking two ways. Last but not the least, remember, we have had an opposition party that has fought this election under resourced. And in many key battles in many areas, in Uttar Pradesh, many defeats of ministers. In Bihar, the victory of the CPIML on two seats, both defeating ministers of the NDA, Engineer Rashid winning here, in Kashmir. All of these tell you there has been something that the voter is trying to talk about, and which is that established political parties need to take note of what the citizen has to tell the political class, and that's something that the media needs to protect. As of now, I'm not here to say, oh, this is not emergency, I'm very comfortable. I'm uneasy.
Okay, you're uneasy, and I think that's a word that many might agree with, but not necessarily with the nomenclature. As far as willing ethnic, willing sort of nationalist or ethno-nationalist is concerned, Manisha, the large parts of the world is dealing with sort of populism or populist politics, both on the left and the right. So this is not unique to India. There is a churn happening in how politics is played. Let's take last comment, Sabah. Manisha is uneasy, but some might say the fact that Rahul Gandhi can wave the constitution around, be sort of play aggressively on the front foot, points actually to a robust health of the democracy that we're in.
So here's the thing, Barkha, that I absolutely get the point about authoritarianism, majoritarianism, about trying to have control through the system, through independent institutions. I get all that. So there's nothing, but I completely disagree. The emergency is the emergency. When you're not even doing that, you've just suspended everyone's rights. So I beg to disagree with that definition. Of course, and I'm the first person who's been writing repeatedly, about all of that. So I see a very clear distinction. Okay, I get, and that by saying that, the way Manisha, my friend Manisha, is stating it as if those who don't agree with her are somehow saying that things are perfect right now. That's not the situation. We just have a different phraseology for different things. I just want to be very clear. And I think it's important to remember what went wrong in our history to get it right. And I also see very good Prime Minister Modi, and everyone is reminding everybody about the emergency. We have to look beyond, okay, the Congress doesn't like it. Okay, even PMLA, they've all together in different points. Congress has also increased the powers that now have opposition.
And the UAPA came to us from the Congress.
Yeah. So we must know what we are all about. We can't, when we are journalists are coming and analyzing things, it's not that because I hate this so much and I'm going to deny what happened there. Let's be dispassionate. Let's try and be as objective as we can possibly be. I keep trying, in spite of my very obvious biases. I try. No, that's not the emergency, I'm afraid. And yes, everybody contributed towards draconian laws. And now one regime, which became a single party regime for a decade, took advantage of it. Let's see if things change.
Yeah. Percival, last thoughts? Can you unmute yourself at your end, please? Yeah. We can't hear. Yeah.
Yesterday, if you really want to know about the emergency, I saw a very interesting news report by somebody who is known to be the father of investigative journalism, Mohan Guruswamy. Now, he was involved in what happened firsthand, and he narrates stuff which even historically I was not aware of. So, for example, he says that when Mrs. Gandhi came back to power, the entire Shah Commission report disappeared. Right? So, I mean, there are shades and shades, right? This is an absolutely extreme position that our country went to. Please don't forget that the 42nd Amendment also amended our preamble. Look, our preamble was amended to say that we are a socialist secular republic. I mean, that was never the original intent of the framers of the constitution. And this issue was debated ad nauseum. It was debated, right? But Mrs. Gandhi just with one sweep of the pen went ahead and amended it. And the date of the preamble is still the original date of November 1940, 45, 47.
I think that's a well taken point, and I think Sava has made a similar point. But to Rajat's point, Tavleen, as I come to you for last comments, and then I'll give Rajat the closing word. One of our audience members says in Tamil Nadu, the entire mainstream media is fully under the thumb of the ruling DMKs. Savaku Shankar, who spoke out against the government, is in jail. Others have been jailed earlier. This was the point I think that Rajat was making, that this instinct is across the aisle. This instinct to silence the media, this instinct to have draconian laws, this instinct to have overarching sort of executive power, this is not confined to any one party. Yet there are those like Dr. Manisha Prem who would argue, no, but there's something distinct about this time, this moment, this phase. As you said, you've suffered, your son has suffered. What would you say?
I find it very dangerous to. We had a dictatorship during the emergency. Parliament didn't exist. Nothing existed. The judiciary didn't exist. The media didn't exist. We haven't seen that yet. We have seen a degree of autocracy, which is unpleasant. But it's absolutely true that I've seen that kind of autocracy before Mr. Modi became prime minister as well. If I suffered because of Modi becoming prime minister, let me tell you something. It was no picnic trying to work to write against Sonia Gandhi. I mean, I openly threatened with my column would be closed. The Indian Express was. So, I mean, this is, Mr. Modi hasn't come out of, thin air. This is a road that has been paved for him by laws made by decades of Congress rule. And we must never make the mistake of mixing up, the emergency with what we've seen in the past 10 years. We cannot. Autocracy is autocracy and dictatorship is dictatorship.
Manisha, do you want to add to that before Rajat closes?
I just want to tell you that as a child, I was responsible for looking after George Fernandez hiding in our house. And it was that day I could just read Hindi newspapers. I used to sit on the newspaper and read it. And I read that uncle who was in my front room was arrested for the dynamite kand, etc. So it's not that I do not understand what happened. I have lived it. My family's been a part of it. I don't want to extend that story any further. It's not about me. But I feel that unless the defense of civil liberties is much stronger, we have many areas where there has been a regress. I have never said that that moment and this moment is the same. I do not think that only one government is responsible. Rajat has made a very strong point, but the fact is that for many reasons, I believe that there have been incursions into civil liberties, and we are also going to have a new criminal procedure code. I do not know what the changes are, but from what I hear, there is ample scope for me to believe that we need to understand that this will have very grave implications for us. And I believe very much that the poor in this country are underserved with respect to their basic rights. And though that notion of rights is a far more expanded right today than just the right to speak. And I believe that the poor have spoken up. What is very different from the emergency is that there is an elite urban upper class which votes one way and is now seen as a vote bank for one particular party, is also very strong in saying that we simply don't want to speak. That upper class is also a very global, rich upper class. It doesn't believe that many of the laws of the land, could catch it or could deny it its liberties. So these are different moments, but I believe for many reasons there is ample incursions into the arena of civil liberties, and we need to be very, very vigilant to protect what is ours and what is given to us by the Constitution of India. It's a matter of a great crafting and the world's largest democracy that we want to save.
Well, we are back to the Constitution, and to that extent, it is what we will all hold as sacred, even while it has been amended multiple times. But the basic structure doctrine does guide us. Rajat, you said that this instinct exists across the aisle, but this instinct must be pushed back against, and that is why you need other institutions of democracy to function, right? What do you see ahead? As there is a more confrontational politics that is going to unfold because of the numbers on either side, what do you see ahead immediately?
Uh, so first of all, see, just as a closing remark, I want to reiterate today remains a solemn milestone. We finish our 50 years since the day of emergency, and I think all the parliamentarians across the aisle agree to the fact that that day shouldn't repeat in our constitutional future. And therefore, we should strive to remove such draconian provisions within our constitution, which can prove, detrimental at a later point in time. So perhaps the constitution should come together through a common resolution that we want to do away with the internal disturbance provisions of the emergency powers, which are there in the constitution. It should be done away with. And what better time than the 50th year when you are marking that day? That is number one. Number two is, ours is a noisy democracy, and it is noisy enough, and it'll get more and more noisy in the days to come. And I think this is where public at large comes as the biggest arbiter of justice. They tend to swing the pendulum whenever it reaches the extreme ends. And,
Yes.
trust the public. Our democracy resides in their hearts and minds, not in us elites. They know how to do justice, and they operate not in a synchronized way, but in a completely decentralized, non-synchronized way. They assert their understanding of which way the pendulum of justice is swinging, and they'll bring it back each time it has happened. And I think we should commend the public of our country, not go by what a Swedish think tank is going to put us on a rank as to what kind of a democracy we are. Instead, trust on our people. They will never let us slip into a dictatorship or an autocracy. Instruments will be there, but they will be temporary instruments at the behest of the powerfuls, but not permanent.
I think on that great note of hope and consensus, we can close this debate. We'd all agree, I think, with what Rajat has just said, which is a rare moment for a conversation that is political. Thank you.